The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to the Icons of Real Estate. I'm Tim Calloway. We have a very special guest for you today, Kurt Uhlir. Kurt is a globally recognized marketer, operator, and speaker. And his speaking experience includes all over the United States and Europe, in addition to presenting prominent industry events such as the PPAI, GDC, the White House, which I'd love to hear about that, and private company team workshops. He advises leaders from startup founders to private equity-backed CEOs, and even the President of the United States. Exciting stuff. Kurt, welcome to the show. Excited to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, for sure. So let's, before we get into some of these exciting stories, how did you get started? I mean, were you 6 years old, pulling at your mom's, heels going, hey, I want to be a motivator and a speaker. I want to help companies take it to the next level. What do I do? How'd you get to this point?
I got forced into being a speaker, really, just because I came along point with some mentors that were great, that they got me discipling others. So you can kind of multiply, yourself with like to 6 to maybe 12 at a time. Right. But then they started to kind of point out, and I didn't like talking too much, not public speaking. And they were like, yeah, you can help 8 people a year if you're kind of doing discipling and coaching individuals. You can help 8,000 a year if you just start writing more and actually taking some of these speaking offers that have come up. But I wasn't 6. I will say I was a 1099 employee the first time at either 8 or 9 years old. I don't remember. Wow. My dad worked for Bell Labs, kind of the Apple of the time. And took me into work, and they had some had a math issue that they were having, and I was able to solve it. And wow. His basic thing later, I don't remember what toy I ended up getting. He was like, look, we pay people to solve these things. We bring in consultants to solve these things. So they cut you a check because you solved something that had been struggling for a while. And I didn't actually do much. I started my first 2 LLCs at 14, but I did bill hours at like 8 or 9.
Wow. That's great, man. I love hearing that. So talk about today, on the intro, we talked about all the different things. Talk about some of the companies that you've worked with and some of the people that you have spoken in front of and mentored yourself.
Well, I've been in real estate for the last 5, maybe 6 years now. And we can talk about that, but I had this unique place when I came out of my master's degree. Was I was able to work for a man named Salahuddin Khan. We think about mapping, and you think Google Maps are everywhere. As SEOs and marketers, we use Google Maps, and Google Maps is still number 2, maybe number 3 in terms of spatial data globally. We took this company called Navtech, Navigation Technologies. We took it public. It's now called Uhlir Technologies. And then later, Nokia bought it for $8.1 billion before. Really good for investors. But you think of all the places that use mapping data. And so this gentleman, Salahuddin, took me under his arm, another woman that worked there, Denise Doyle, and I was able to walk. Like, I didn't realize what that opportunity was because I was a smug kid right out of school. So I would walk out of a meeting with Siemens VDO that makes the navigation system for Alexis, walk into a meeting with Microsoft video games because somebody gave me some rope to go hang myself, which turned out to be pretty good, selling spatial data into Microsoft video gaming and Sony and other places. And then I'd walk back into my third meeting of the day with UPS Logistics. So there's like a dozen industries where I didn't realize that I was just literally at that right time, thankfully with 2 kind of internal mentors who brought me under their wing. And then actually as I left, the CEO who had been there with us before and that had retired took me back under his wing. And I had no concept either, one, the place in all of these industries I was, or that, looking back, I should have cut all of those people's checks for what they taught me because it was way more valuable than any of my schooling.
Right. It's amazing where you can get an education, right? Some people like to say the school of hard knocks. Some people like to say the streets. Some people like to say Yale, but really life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Life is the best experience. So,
well, and especially in terms of like marketing and anything in operations or SEO wise, I would much rather take somebody that has, 2 years, 5 years of experience working for a known brand or a known results agency that has some experience versus almost any undergrad, because they they've thought in a way of operations and standard operating procedures. And even if I don't put them in marketing, they have a way of thinking, which is I almost only would otherwise get if you hire like an undergraduate with an applied mathematics degree that decide they didn't want to be a PhD.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. And my son is a PhD at the U, as you can see here,
Oh yeah, yeah.
University of Miami. And then my other son, though, has a master's degree, but he did the college program with Disney. And I'll tell you right now, people are more interested in the one that has the experience with the procedural program. When you said that, that's just like right
Absolutely.
the procedural program for a corporation like Disney than they are the one with the PhD.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So super valid. Go ahead.
Yeah, the mentor I mentioned that had been at our company, we were his retirement gig, was named Judson Green. He was the CEO, the president of Disney theme parks for years and years. Animal Kingdom came out. And so he didn't realize when he'd come into our company, he thought it was kind of a retirement gig. And he's like, crap, there's a lot of money here. But then he had been retired for a few years and took me back under his wing. And to your point, the only like so many more doors and so many more companies I've been able to help come from that kind of Disney mentality, the culture they had at that time. So,
right. Yeah, it's and they're going through a lot right now, as we both know. Of course, I'm right down the road from them, so it's like I get inundated with it, and then having a son that's associated with I get inundated with what's going on at Disney all the time.
I tried talking to my wife about it, and she just didn't want to hear it. I mean, I'm if anybody that knows me personally, like I am a huge sci-fi fantasy geek. So anything from Star Wars to Harry Potter, and so everything that's happened with this roller coaster and the split of fandoms, and so and my wife's like, I got the hand. She's like, I just don't want to hear it, and I was like, I can appreciate it.
They don't get it. They don't get it. My wife doesn't get it either. She's like, oh yeah, I don't like either one of them, and I'm like, oh, I've been married to you for 32 years.
It's okay. We all don't have to like the same things.
Exactly. So tell me, how do you find, I mean, your name's pretty synonymous, with growth and what I call next level thinking. Your reputation precedes you. I'll put it like that in a positive way. And so I mean, does your phone ring off the hook? I mean, are people contact you on the regular basis, or do you have a process where you're out talking to companies? And like I said, your resume and everything speaks for itself. How do you get that in front of people right now?
I do get called a good bit for the kind of that next gig, but also a lot of the people that I might want to work for, no, I'm not interested. I'm very happy with where I'm at. The main thing, like especially new people that I'm mentoring or CEOs I'm coaching, those all come from referrals. I don't need to kind of cold call. If somebody fills something out on the website, I actually won't reply. If you're looking for me to come coach you, I will reply for other things. You leave a comment on an article that I wrote, I will reply to those things day in and day out. But what I often look for is that if somebody's just blind cold, hey, they fill out, they're looking for some executive coaching.
Right.
I usually won't reply because I actually am looking to see, right. You gotta know, because I didn't respond the first time. How else are you going to get in touch with me? Are you then going to say, hey, I saw you on Tim's podcast. And so they come around, they know you, and they end up finding a referral some other way because there needs to be a level, at least in my experience, because a lot of times people don't like the hard feedback they get from real mentors and coaches. And so they need to work for it a little bit. Sometimes somebody gets drawn kicking and screaming because maybe I worked with a PE group or something at some point. They're like, we have the next person, but she's not quite there yet. I'll take those calls, but that's a referral to me. As far as speaking, it usually ends up being anything where it's somebody like this. It's a relationship we have, somebody like Laura on my team that reaches out and it makes like a good fit.
So tell me, when it comes to growth of personnel, when it comes to growth of, let's say, a small company, is there a commonality, Kurt? And this might be a curveball question, I hope not, but is there a commonality that you see with some of this? I don't even know what the second level of startup is actually called, but once they're past, say, the money raising phase and they're getting into what I would call the growth phase, is there a common core issue or problem that every company misses or doesn't understand the process? at that
There,
point?
there is from a naming perspective. I maybe not state a company, but every company in person goes through this. It's an inflection point. They've got a point in their business. Maybe they're at 7 figures a year in revenue, 8 figures in revenue. I come in sometimes much larger than that, but they're not able to figure out how do we do that next growth, and so they can't get over that inflection point. They need to see real growth happens. The commonality that I see is that they think that they're right. They reach out because they know they have that feeling for that inflection point. They're trying things, but when you get in there and talk with them, I'll be damned if almost every one of them doesn't think that they're right. And so I just say that in terms of one of the reasons I've been successful is I had mentors that just, and in different ways, they told me this. And mentors on the work side and mentors on the personal marriage side that have pointed out that said, Kurt, you're wrong about at least 3 things in your business and probably in your marriage today, then you have no concept of that you're wrong about. And as my experience, I've gone through that. I see it repeated in myself and in others, because like I've written 6 and 7 figure checks in a companies and I've got 0 return because hey, it was a bad idea. It was the wrong CEO, the wrong team. And so you wouldn't ever write those checks if you thought it was a good decision. You would never start a line of your business going this direction if you knew it was the wrong decision. So the mentality is whatever is currently a bad idea that you're 6 months or 6 years into felt just like a good idea when you started it. And you won't realize it's a bad idea unless somebody else comes in and helps you, until you realize you're Wile E. Coyote, you're off over the cliff and you fall. And that sucks. And you realize at that time that you're right. But if you really go back through, you'll go, damn, I thought I was right 6 months ago when we started this. And I had people around me that kept confirming that was a good decision. And we should have realized 2 months in, it was a bad decision.
Right. Is there a type of company that's in a spot that you will not work with? And I don't mean fundamentally like what they do. I mean, essentially where they're at in the process.
Too early stage, I won't work with. I've realized, and for what I'm good at is I'm an operator. I'm a scaler. I have started a couple of companies. My shovel ready kind of companies and retail stores have done well, but starting like a SaaS company, it's been okay. It got sold, but we raised some money, but it was hard on me. And I had a mentor point out, they're like, he had brought me in a company we'd sold to Oracle, and they'd raised about $30 million up until right before he brought me in. He goes, I brought you in because you put an extra 0 or 2 zeros on company revenue. And why would you think you should go find that 0 to 1? That's not you. And so if companies trying to figure out that product market fit, they're trying to figure out their best service offering. That's usually not a good place for me. You bring me in a place where it's got 50,000 agents, maybe 20,000 agents in the real estate side. You come in where it's a SaaS company with $10 million, then we can start to talk. If it's something less than that, you've got too much to figure out usually.
Right.
There's other people that are better than that than me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a foundation that needs to be built before you actually step in, it seems.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll get personal now a little bit. On your day to day, and I don't know what your day to day exactly looks like, but if I were to come out and visit and check out that tree behind you, that I'm fascinated by now as you're talking, I keep going. And I come out and visit, take a tour of the property, and we're just talking. I mean, on a day to day business, if there was any problem I could solve for you, say I had that magic Harry Potter wand. And I could solve one problem that you came across on a daily basis. It didn't have to be a problem. That's such a harsh word sometimes, but an issue that's nagging. What might that be, if at all?
I mean, the biggest thing that I continue to struggle with is executives that, despite them saying that they understand that investments and changes and strategy takes time, they want it tomorrow. And I like that bloodthirst from people, but they'll make great decisions. We'll start down a path that we even see all the leading indicators that we're on the right path and this is going to be great. But you're 6 months or you're 9 months down the line. So maybe you're 2 years down the line, because some of these things, especially like bigger SEO plays, take a long time. Right. And they're so thirsty for the results that they'll just shift at that point. And I mean, one that breaks my heart, because I'm like, you've been making all the great decisions. You might even be 6 months or 12 months from like truly changing things, but you got scared just because where were the numbers today? And so that, I mean, that's the thing that, I mean, I struggle with it myself. I mean, we always want more tomorrow. I'm always looking for like, how can I help connect with people? Because it's not a logic thing at that point. It's almost always an emotional thing with that executive or that executive team, where like the logic is looking at the leading indicators. They see all the work that's been done. And you know, if you're coming as a consultant, you can tell them this is the right person, she's the right person. We let these two people go and we've replaced them. Give them all those things, but it doesn't feel big to them yet. And so it's hard to live. It's hard for people, I think, when you're getting over that inflection point or you're working through it, to live in the present from being like, look, it does matter if you put in hours today, but you need to live in the results that are going to happen way down the line.
Oh, that's good advice. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to ask a question you might be afraid to answer. Not afraid, but you may just not want to answer. Have you ever gone into a situation? I was thinking about it as, you know, you and I were talking pre-show about what's going on with Disney as a corporation right now. And have you ever walked into a situation or been brought into a situation where you looked at the CEO or you looked at management team, and you don't have to name names, but I don't want it to be a yes or no, but don't name names, where you said, yeah, you're the, you know, I can do everything, but at the end of the day, it points back to that person or that management team and said they're the ones that need to go. There's where the changes need to be made.
Yeah, I have. In some cases, if I'm brought in as an executive coach and there's not the place to be able to remove one or more of those people, because those cases exist, especially depending on,
Sure.
even if it's later stage, depending on who founded the company, I'll remove myself. So I've torn up a 2-year left executive coaching agreement because I'm 30 days in, 60 days in, and I realized that like it's either the person or the person's just not willing to change, and therefore this is not going to be a good arrangement for it. But I'll say I've written checks as well from an angel investor perspective, where at the end of the day, what I realized was it was the CEO. And it's like little things that I look for. Sometimes, like, especially with people that have found pretty decent success, it's a lot of times very easy for them to actually hide that they're not really humble enough to admit that they're wrong or to try to improve. And so a lot of times I'll look for little things, like, especially if you have like a CEO or a CMO and whoever a more senior person, you want to know that they're not the right person. Look back if there's a history for when things start getting difficult, rather than just taking the one step through the fog to get through it. Did they redesign their logo? Are they on their 7th logo redesign? And their SaaS company that's raised 3 rounds of funding, and that's what the CEO does because it's the stress reaction. I can't tell you how many times that specific example I've seen. One of it from a real estate SaaS, I'd say companies, it's the same company, but I think they're on like the 7th name at this point. Wow. Same CEO. None of it has ever worked. I'm not positive they've ever actually launched a product, but I've seen that in many other industries as well.
Yeah. They're just in the business of raising capital.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a lot of times it is scary. I mean, the hardest thing, whether you have an operator or coach, outside agency that's helping you through something, is to admit that either 1, you're wrong, or 2, you don't know what to do next. Or in many cases, you're trying to get through that inflection point. There's so much work on in front of you. Just what do I do? And people feel stuck. And if you don't know what to do, the best move is anything that's on the Trello board.
Right.
Right. And so some cases, that is the best thing. Like, is it the single best option you can do? Is it the top 10 thing? No, but it's better than doing nothing, because nothing means you're stuck. And I even attribute some of that to, I try to split up things to deep work and shallow work, or it just gets to be a later hour where I can't decide, hey, what's the best thing to do? And so I'll go to either my personal Trello board for a company or my team's Trello boards, and I'll just go pick something at random that they've prioritized to the top and go, hey, I can do that. It's 11 o'clock at night. The family's asleep. I won't go to sleep till about 2. I'm just going to work on this. Yeah.
That's probably this. If you can fragment that time or segregate that time, I guess that's a better way to put it. Yeah. It's a lot easier. So we're kind of winding down here, and I know there's you and I, we could probably talk about 500 other things that might be for a later time, a later date. How could someone get in touch with you? Obviously you don't want to be inundated with phone calls about, some of the minutia, but if someone did want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that, Kurt?
My website is the best place because it's that hub that goes anywhere else. I'm always concerned TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, they're going to change their algorithm. So kurtuhlir.com is the best place. And I said, if somebody does want to get in touch with me, I'll tell you the best way to start a conversation is feedback on one of my articles. Like I'm writing tens of thousands of words on high achieving servant leadership right now. And a lot of the articles that are in the bank are somebody has asked a question on like, my definitive guide or something like that and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. That's super helpful for me.
Perfect. Well, Kurt, I always say, I'm just a DJ and you're the hit record, and I'm spinning records here. So take us out. Give us the last word, last minute or two, anything that's on your mind, your soul, your heart that you want to share. It could be about what we're talking here today, or it could be about how to cook the perfect turkey. You tell us.
I don't have anything on the cooking the perfect turkey. I will just say though, what the reasons I took the interview to though was because because of the CEO firm in the background for it. And I see so many companies that actually find that real growth. They've known that like, it's not just SEO to its perspective. It's that those that do know whatever the right, we know that's a big term, whatever the right investment in SEO is, those are people that are thinking wisely about how they should be growing their business long-term. Because there's short-term opportunities for a lot of companies. But when I see people with huge organic growth, and that could be referral traffic. It could be things that doesn't come from SEO. The one consistent thing is their CEO, sometimes their board, they've understood that, hey, they should be investing in SEO. And it's weird how hard that is to get companies, especially boards that don't understand the value of that to shift. But that's actually one of the things I'll step into is, well, like, hey, when people understand it or they're trying to understand it, that actually makes me a lot more interested to work with that company.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of CEOs think it's kind of a voodoo or, sometimes even a bygone era, campaign. And you and I both know it's not. I mean, you said it about the algorithms of TikTok and, Facebook. I mean, Facebook is going through its own troubles now. Instagram being owned by Facebook, they do change all the time. How about that? But so does Google's, I mean, we know that, but SEO is such a bigger, broader picture. And I think that's the key. Good stuff, Kurt. I have really enjoyed. I wanted to hear more actually, but time doesn't allow for it. So I don't know. Maybe we can get together at another time. Maybe I will come out and visit sometime.
All right.
Definitely wanted to hear a story about the White House. But
all right, well, we could do that. I'd be happy to come back and talk. So at some point,
Kurt, I look forward to that. I would love that. I'll let our producer know and see what into the new year we can make that happen. All right. Kurt Uhlir, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great Thanksgiving, Kurt.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.